Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to our Keeping Business Moving webinar powered by Lalamove. We are live on BFM's Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So wherever you are viewing us from, thank you for being with us. Now, the festive season is upon us, which means the shopping season is well and truly underway. With this influx, how do you ensure your customers receive their products on time? How much planning is required, whether you're a B2B or B2C business? How do you ensure the peak season rush for goods and services are handled as efficiently and smoothly as possible? Well, we've invited industry experts from 3 different segments to shed some light on the local retail ecosystem and how deliveries and logistics can increase a business competitiveness during peak shopping seasons. So let me introduce our panelists today. First up, we have Jane Tay, Managing Director, Lalamove Malaysia. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Freda. Thanks for having us.
Next, we have Vernon Chua, CEO of Innergia Labs.
Hi, Freda. Thanks for having me on.
Good afternoon. And last but not least, Christy Ng, founder of Christy Ng Shoes.
Hey, hello, hi. Thanks for
Hi.
having me.
Hi, Christy. Good to see you again. Now, for those of you who have any questions, please do post them in the comments section and we'll get to them a little later. So I'm going to start off a question for everyone here. What have been some of the pertinent developments in your segments that you've seen in the last 2 years? I'm going to ask Christy first.
Okay, I think what we've observed is a sharp increase in e-commerce sales. I think with the e-commerce segment of our business has grown like 400% since the onset of COVID. So I think, and we're seeing these numbers continue to slowly rise. At first we thought that the e-commerce orders would drop after COVID when the lockdowns have been lifted, but we still see that the baseline post-COVID is still higher than pre-COVID.
Right. Okay. And of course, coupled with the festive season as well.
Yes.
Right. And what about you, Vernon? What have you been seeing?
Well, pretty much following on what Christy said, that there's clearly been a surge in online shopping and online food deliveries. And I think there has been reports that have come out that said that online spend per person is going up to about 50% year on year. So that's quite a massive change in customer behavior. Right. And so this trend that is forcing more and more those brick and mortar retailers, such as supermarkets, your retailers, your pharmacies, your F&B operators, it's forcing them to bring themselves online and to go digital in order to cater to this shift in customer behavior. And online demand and on-demand delivery is very much a part of this trend.
So online, offline, more work for Jane. Jane, what have you seen as some pertinent developments in your segment?
Thanks, Freda. So right here, we observed that there's a growing dependency on on-demand delivery for sure, especially during the lockdown times. But even pre-lockdown, we are seeing that people are still choosing to stay at home, especially right now. There's the Omicron that is pretty scary. And our government is still working on the booster shots. So the change, like Vernon said, that the change in terms of consumer behavior and how businesses are adapting themselves to this change, it's very crucial, especially during these times. There's a growing number. Of course, F&B is indispensable, especially during pandemic. But there's growing number in terms of larger items such as furniture, electronic appliances, and across throughout this period of time. And it has definitely shaped the way we live. I think it's new lifestyle, not just a consumer behavior change.
Right. Right, so new lifestyle. Right now, Vernon, over the last 2 years, we've spoken about digitization and e-commerce and on-demand delivery started being a huge part of the ecosystem because you've come on a lot. What interesting trends are you seeing in that space and the role of on-demand delivery?
So I have it. Thanks, guys, for always having me on to talk about this. I love to wax lyrical about digitization. Yes, so I mean, the last 2 years, once again, has forced retailers and F&B operators to really up their game and get into that space, right? And where it used to be a nice to have, let's take on-demand delivery as an example. Where it used to be a nice to have for retailers and F&B operators because it's an extra convenience for their customers and a way for them to attract new customers from outside their typical service area. But now it's no longer just a convenience; it is a necessity. So every retailer and F&B operator that wants to thrive and grow will need to factor in online customers and how to handle that last mile delivery for them. But what is also an interesting trend within that is that it has actually created additional challenges for retailers and for businesses, right? So I'll give you an interesting example. So we know, let's take the F&B because that's an interesting one. Popular online delivery platforms eat a lot of their margins. And before the pandemic, this was a nice to have for the business because most of their customers would still dine in, about 90% would still dine in or do takeaways. So the cost of the online delivery platforms was justifiable in a way, if you look at it as a way of attracting new customers or helping to turn over their inventory. But during the lockdown, it became almost 100% of their business, which means their profit margins were very small or negligible. So what we are noticing now, a trend, is that more and more restaurants are starting to offer their own delivery service or partnering with Lalamove in order to, or services like Lalamove, in order to better govern their costs and protect their margins. So that's been an interesting pattern of behavior we're seeing.
Right. Okay. So not a nice to have, a need to have.
Yes.
So I guess like Jane, the appeal of Lalamove is on demand, customizable nature, right? What are the objectives in providing customers with a scalable logistics solution?
It's definitely very, very important for businesses to have the agility as well as the customizability for all types of delivery. So regardless, it's a small item, large item, as you mentioned, anyone can enjoy the same level of speed as well as convenience. So delivery is among consumers as well as businesses are actually very, very different. And if you drill down into the business segment, the delivery needs for various industries are not the same either. So retail business, we are looking at on-demand delivery for better customer experience. And wholesalers, on the other hand, they are relying on-demand delivery to serve as an alternative fleet to boost their operational efficiency especially during the peak season. So with this flexibility and the wide range of delivery fleet that we have, they are able to scale up and down their business. So during the peak season, you want to cope with the surge, the opportunity is right in front of your eyes.
Right.
And if you're operationally, you don't have an agile delivery solution, it will be very difficult for you to cope with this demand. And I mean, during peak season, because we are going with this pay-per-use model, and there's no commitment. So if you use us for January for your peak season, go ahead. But for downtimes, you can look into optimizing the rest of your costs. So I think it's time to also look into businesses to look at the bigger picture. They need to understand how they are operating and how they can be agile in coping with all this surge of demand.
Right. And it's very predictable when the search is going to be, right? Raya, that kind of thing. So it's a part of your business planning. You got to look into this, right? Yeah. You know, Christy, you've been an entrepreneur for 10 years now, I think a little over 10 years, right? How has consumer behavior changed and what are the expectations when it comes to shopping and goods delivery? Because once upon a time, I remember going to your house and, you know, picking up some shoes. My behavior has changed, but what have you seen?
I think consumers are very comfortable buying online now compared to 10 years ago. I think the whole omni-channel experience helps, offline, online, online, offline. Having both is very important for all retailers. And yeah, I think the biggest change in consumer behavior over the past 2 years is definitely on the ease and, the ease and the increase of online purchase. I think this is what I see, and retailers need to make it very easy for their clients to purchase online, and returns have to be done seamlessly. Option for in-store pickup when you purchase online is also very important. So these are some of the trends I notice in retail.
Right. And you see like this kind of behavior won't be temporary even when the pandemic is over. Some of these behaviors, right? You're used to convenience, you're used to ease, right? And also like in terms of stock and inventory, right? One of the things that you have to be concerned about, how has opening multiple brick and mortar stores changed the way you manage operational efficiency? So does delivery and speed of delivery factor into your branding and long-term image among your customers?
Yeah, I think consumers they expect the items to be delivered to them on time, fast. Efficiency and speed is very, very critical, because if you don't deliver fast enough, they will not buy again. And if
Right.
you deliver fast enough, chances of them repeating and buying more is there. And people, consumers, especially in Peninsular Malaysia, they expect their item to be delivered in no more than 48 hours, probably in
Right.
24 hours. I buy today, I expect it to come tomorrow. It has
Right.
become like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think like customers, they'll expect it faster and faster.
Yes,
That's
faster.
human nature, right?
Yeah.
Um, maybe predictive analytics before you even press the button, the item
Yeah.
should be there. For those of you who just joined us, whether you're on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or Facebook, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. We talk about keeping business moving because it is a very important thing, regardless of any timing, but more so during the festive season when everybody is doing a lot of deliveries. I've got Jane Tay from Lalamove here, Vernon Chua from Innergia Labs, and Christy Ng from Christy Ng Shoes. Jane, now when we think of deliveries, right, we usually think of products shipped to customers in a B to C environment, right? But a huge part is actually from the B2B environment. So how does Lalamove support businesses in the B2B space?
So just now we talk about how you are able, with a flexible delivery solution, you are able to scale up and down your business. Aside from that, operating to meet the spike in terms of demand, to capitalize the opportunity is also very, very crucial during this time. And at the shortest time to build your own fleet, it comes with a lot of headache,
Right.
and also like the solution behind it, the back end part of it. It's not something that can be set up overnight. So
Right.
with our services on the B2B segment, what we do help is we help to connect for over 40,000 active drivers, all sorts of vehicle types. We also have long haul delivery service where we can support inter-branch delivery. It's just like Christy, probably something that she have to deal with, ensuring that your branch is well stocked, and also some B2B, they also have multiple premise and also warehouse. So how do you cover the mid-mile delivery part of, which is a part of your supply chain? Yeah, with the pay-per-use delivery, you can scale up and down your business, whether is it serving your B2B customers or also your B2C customers.
Right. I always find that, when you're in business, whatever your core business is, to focus on your core business. And when you start putting, another element of the business, which isn't part, the costs, it looks easy on the surface, but it's not, right? There are a lot of factors to take into consideration. Vernon, based on your expertise and experience as well, how do concepts and tools like e-commerce, e-wallet, and on-demand delivery help businesses remain agile in a post-pandemic environment, and do they also factor into branding? When we'll get to post-pandemic, I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, Freda, even before the pandemic, so the pre-pandemic era, there's a very grim statistic, and that is that 20%, around 20% of all new businesses will fail within the first year, and by the fifth year, almost 50% will fail. So, I mean, pandemic aside, doing business, retail, F&B, is always going to be fraught with challenges, and business owners have to keep innovating and improving to ensure their success. So tools like e-commerce, on-demand delivery, they're all there to help businesses reach a wider customer base and also to increase their revenue streams and improve their efficiencies. E-wallets are there to help make it easier for the customer to pay you and for you to collect and manage your cash, so you don't have to keep so much cash on premise. And the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, the pandemic has now made these tools the expected norm, right? Especially in the Klang Valley and in the urban city areas around Malaysia. So if you think about it, the Klang Valley alone accounts for around 50% of all retail spend nationwide.
Right.
So if you are a retail or an F&B owner and you are operating in an urban area and want not to just survive but to thrive and to grow, you will need to adopt these tools to remain in the game. And so here's the thing. I mentioned earlier that most businesses are going online and going digital. So when you as a business owner are going online or going digital, the thing is all your competitors are doing the exact same thing. So you will now need to find a way to differentiate yourself from all the noise that your competitors making, which brings us to the question of branding that you raised, right? So, and when you talk about branding, customer experience or the customer journey is a very vital part of that whole aspect, right? So, the thing we are understanding now, and I think you've mentioned it earlier, Freda, is that customers behave very differently nowadays in a physical store as when compared to when they're shopping online. So on the online store, convenience is everything. But in the physical store, it's the experience and the touch and feel.
Right.
They want to touch, they want to feel, they want to experience, right? So understanding how your customers behave in both contexts, in online and offline terms, in terms of their transaction behavior, their patterns, how they interact and mix with your products, their wallet sizes, it will actually go a long way in you understanding your customer journey and in helping you to craft out campaigns to help keep them immersed in your brand.
Right. I want to ask Christy this, right? What kind of behavior are you seeing online, offline, when the whole, what kind of behavior are you seeing?
I think generally for lower ticket price items, consumers are more willing to buy it online. But for higher ticket price items, more expensive products, they prefer to buy offline. So this
Right.
is something that I see. So if your product is a couple $100, then I think the consumers will feel more comfortable buying it offline.
Right.
And you need to have very, very good and clear and very flexible exchange policy to make it work. Or not, they won't dare to buy. But generally, lower ticket price items move very, very quick online. It's actually easier to sell lower ticket price items online compared to offline.
Right. Right, which means more work for Lalamove, right? So Jane, the holiday season is also a time for shopping and retailers, right? They'll try to chart their rebound from sluggish sales during the early days of lockdown, right? What kind of surge are you noticing this year, and is revenge shopping a factor?
So the trend that we observed actually is quite equal between the online as well as offline. I think we all tasted the honey during the lockdown times, and I think
Yeah.
we are, frankly speaking, we have adapted to it. So and recent news, there's a lot of like congestions in the mall. A lot of people are also afraid to bring their family and also to go out to do physical shopping. So in terms of delivery volume, we are still growing. Day on day, month on month, and it also surpassed the pre-pandemic. It has definitely surpassed the pre-pandemic, which is a
Right.
2021 delivery volume. Also, we have surpassed it. So this proves that there's a strong reliance on online shopping, despite the fact that they can actually shop the item physically. Although there will be a difference in terms of basket size, but if you have a wide range of collection or a wide range of products, different products will sell at different platforms. So you need to relook into how you can adjust that and to serve both your online as well as your offline customers. And frankly speaking, revenge shopping is definitely a thing. Right now, we still can't travel. Where else you're gonna spend your money, right? So this phenomenon has showed that consumers have adjusted themselves in this, and businesses should also adjust themselves. During the pandemic, everyone strive to survive.
Right.
Once you survive, what you're gonna do? You need to thrive. Otherwise,
Right.
like Vernon said, right, your business, if you are not able to differentiate yourself, it will be difficult for you to bring your business to the next level. So
Right.
they should definitely start equipping themselves with efficient and as well as agile digital solution to assist them to grow their business.
Right. And going online is not even a competitive advantage anymore. As you were saying, it's a need to have, right? So then taking that forward is the branding, right? So you're talking about revenge shopping is true. And I generally don't like going to malls, but I had to go the other day. It was like, what pandemic, because it was full of people, right? Right. And just what Christy was saying as well, right? In terms of revenge shopping, you can never have enough shoes, right, Christy? So, Vernon, where does the bottleneck usually happen during shopping seasons, right? And how can all parties, be it retailers, suppliers, delivery, and logistics providers, prepare for these surges ahead of time? It's like we never learn.
Yes. Well, Freda, besides the traffic jam, the supply chain is always tested during the festive seasons, right?
Right.
Because the manufacturers and the logistics providers, they're trying to predict demand and try to make sure that they are able to deliver the necessary inventory for their merchants. So, to the question of how can we better prepare, it's always worthwhile to look at your historical sales data to see what your customers' spending behavior was like in the last few years, and to see whether is there a growth in that pattern. And you also want to analyze whether you are constantly facing out of stock situations versus customer demands. And I know some business owners may think that going out of stock is a good sign. But actually, economically speaking, it more likely means that you've lost out on potential revenues and that you are inadvertently driving your customers to your competitors. So understanding your customer consumption patterns and making sure you have adequate inventory to meet those demands will be extremely useful in this game. It's also important to remember that it's not just if you're a merchant, if you're an F&B operator or a retailer, this situation, this supply chain situation is not just your problem, because you are part of an ecosystem, right? So in your ecosystem, you have your suppliers, you have your vendors, you have your logistics partners, and and if they don't understand the kind of consumption patterns that your customers may have, they may not be able to supply you enough on time. So we encourage our clients, our merchants, our F&B operators too, and retailers to share this information with their ecosystem so that they can better prepare as well. In fact, we are helping our merchants to monetize their consumption data with FMCGs and market research organizations in real time, just so that they can have this data, so that their suppliers, their vendors, their partners can have more accurate production planning. So yes, anyone of you who's sharing now, please share your data in your ecosystem. It helps everyone in the long run, and you may actually make money out of it.
Right. And, you're saying it's a bit of planning, just looking at past sales. And I maybe it was difficult last year because it was such a different year from your usual year. But generally, with a bit of planning, you can do that. Jane probably faced a lot of people with last minute, and that affects the bottleneck as well, right? We have a question for Jane. I'll get to that later. It's a very cute question. I think it's a very important question, but we'll get to that. Christy, you're used to the e-commerce ecosystem by now. So how do you prepare and manage logistics during these peak seasons?
I think it's very important for logistics to be integrated with our e-commerce platform. So we've done integration with all our logistic partners. So the minute the order comes in, the airway bill is immediately churned out.
Right.
So I think that's very important. So logistic providers, they need to have ready plug and play kind of integration so that they can integrate to all the different e-commerce platforms available in the market. I think that's very critical, because processing orders, if you have lots of orders, it can take up a lot of time. So what we have in place now to ensure that we are efficient is we have fully integrated our e-commerce platform to all the different logistic providers, and we have also already predetermined which route we use which provider. If it's a overseas order, which provider we're going to use. If it's a very bulky item or very heavy item, which provider we are going to use. So things like that. So this is how we manage our e-commerce aspect. This is very important. The processing speed is very important during peak period. We do, when you're integrated, it's very easy. The data is all available in front of you, and things happen a lot quicker. You need less manpower to process the orders. So yeah.
Right. Because you've been in business for 10 years, and you started with online first and then offline, right? When did this sort of realization on improving on your distribution come about? In the third or fourth year of business, or is it from the get-go? Just your experience, right? And I guess the point is, what is the lesson learned? You wish you did it earlier? What sort of thing would you share to people viewing in?
I think we started e-commerce in 2012. We went into brick and mortar in 2016, before the pandemic. So we had a good 3 years in brick and mortar. We did really, really well. I think a lot of the spending still happens offline. This is pre-pandemic. People still spend offline. Offline spending is still going to exist. It will not completely fade away, but it just has to be complemented with strong e-commerce. You need to be omni-channel. And what I could have done earlier, I think I think I think we're barely scratching the surface for e-commerce. Like
Right.
especially over the past 48 months, right? We've grown so much in terms of e-commerce. We're getting orders from so many different countries. I feel like we're barely scratching the surface, and we could. And I think if done correctly, if we continue to scale in the way we're doing, we can definitely we will be able to grow very exponentially
Right.
because the world is your oyster.
Right.
Before this I was always thinking about local market, always selling within Malaysia, and the minute you start selling to countries like China, to Germany, or to uh, where their population is a lot larger than Malaysia, right? Then you start to see, wow, there's a lot of money to be made.
Right.
So the minute when we started to ship to Philippines, China, Germany, and other parts of the world in meaningful volume, then we start to feel that, wow, the world is really really big. And if you get your e-commerce done right, and you make it easy enough for foreigners to pay and to buy on your site, and you are easily discovered by all these foreign shoppers, then you will be able to make a lot of money. So
Right.
what I would have done earlier, I would have done it more aggressively. I would done it. I will market more aggressively, and I'll go for the low hanging fruit. Those countries where it's easy to ship to,
Right.
where duties and customs won't be a big issue. Those will be the low hanging fruit. So you need to know what is the minimum duties at all the different countries that you're targeting, and for every product has a different threshold value. So you need to know which country, what's the threshold value, um, and target those countries. Like for once you know where the low hanging fruit is, you can milk it.
Right, right. Okay, so new delivery concerns, but yeah, start thinking global, right? Now, Jane, how does a company like Lalamove deal with sudden surge in demand from both retailers and customers, especially like during now?
Freda, as you mentioned just now, it's quite predictable. We
Mm,
have all races, Chinese, Malay, Indian. So
mm,
the festive is pretty much set. And the year-end sale, pretty much something that we've experienced online or offline. So
right.
um, with our year-on-year data, we look into preparing sufficient delivery partners to meet the surge, especially during the peak season, and
Mm,
constantly engaging our drivers, driver base of all types of vehicles, allow us to also allowing them this flexibility where they can generate an income with us part-time or full-time.
mm,
We know of some 9 to 5 that actually during the weekends they want to generate additional income just for the festive period. They are more than welcome to come and serve the community. So this initiative is really to support the local driver community, which consists
right.
of mainly the B40 group, and by providing job opportunities that are accessible to all walks of life.
Mm,
Aside from that, we are also expanding our service to cover more areas, not just not just fulfilling the orders on the local intercity, but also interstate delivery demand. So
mm,
speeding up the inter-branch delivery process, as you mentioned just now, for the B2B clients to meet customer expectation is crucial this point of time. So we gotta get our fleet ready before the actual festive hit
right.
or the actual peak hit,
Right.
and keep them engaged.
Right. So just get them on board because it's gonna come, and then you better be prepared for that, right? Okay, I got a question here from Zainal, which for Jane, and I think this is an important question for all Malaysians about Musang King. Do you guys do perishable items delivery? For example, at Musang King, is the pricing higher, and do you pick up at site? How do you cover? How do you mask the smell? Is my question.
Well, we do perishables. We have
Mm,
API integration with a lot of food aggregators, as Vernon just mentioned just
right.
now. A lot of F&B guys, they are trying to disconnect themselves from platforms that charges commissions. So
Mm,
in terms of perishable goods, yes, we do provide delivery service, and we also have cold chain delivery. So
mm,
Musang King, if it's chilled, you want a cold chain to ensure the freshness. We do have that as well, and intercity, you can do it
mm,
cross border, cross states,
mm.
interstate. it's also possible. The pricing is higher coal truck versus
Right.
the normal trucks. So I think you just gotta look into how can you optimize the volume of the truck, and in terms of pricing, what you are looking at.
Right, right. Okay. We have a question from Alvin, but I think it's more suitable for ringgit and cents. Your questions around the area. Okay, so 2022, we're 2 weeks into the new year. How should companies prepare for 2022 with more people preferring to shop online and receive their purchases via delivery than ever before? So, what should we be looking at? I'll ask this to Vernon first.
Thanks, Freda. Well, firstly, they need to adapt to the new environment, first and foremost, right? And adapting, they need to make sure that their inventory is adequate, make sure that their supply chain is there, make sure that their last mile logistics is also taken care of and organized. But they definitely should not just stop there. As I mentioned earlier, all your competitors are going to be online too. So there is going to be a need to differentiate yourselves, right? The thing about online shopping is that unless you've branded yourself well, customer loyalty is actually lower, right?
Right.
So you need to understand your customer behavior, and the customer behavior is changing rapidly. So it's important that you have the tools to understand these changes, and so that you can quickly react and respond to them and build your customer journey, so that you actually build your brand, and in doing so, build your loyalty with your customers.
Right. Do you still see apprehension with businesses? Are they still apprehensive about going online, that whole aspect? And why would they still be apprehensive?
You always fear what you don't understand, and
Mm-hmm.
so especially when you're talking about the younger business, the people who the younger business entrepreneurs, they're very quick to adapt, or even if they're middle aged. But if you're an old family run company, and the owner is 60, 70 years old, then it's going to be they don't understand it, right? And
Right.
so it's always going to be challenging for them to adapt. So that's why the government's taking on all these programs to try and educate the market, giving them grants, and telling them, look, we will help you all the way through, so that you can actually come and compete. In companies where there's a younger generation taking over, also less resistance.
Right. Right. Okay. So they understand a bit more. Yeah. If for those of you who are watching us, whether on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, if you have any questions, do post them in the comment section. We'll get to them. Christy, right? How should companies prepare for 2022? With as you were mentioning, more people preferring to shop online, and receiving their purchases via delivery. So the question is, how are you preparing for 2022?
We've got some really exciting lineups for 2022. I think we're going to make we hope to make a really do something really audacious this year. This is
Right.
my 10th year in business,
Right.
so they say after 10 years you must make sure you do something big lah.
Mm.
So we will be expanding to Vietnam. We'll be opening our first store in Ho Chi Minh City this year. So that's big for us.
Right.
And then we hope to ship more via e-commerce throughout Asia Pacific.
Right.
And how should companies prepare? I think we should all look into really strategic moves. What kind of moves can we make for our business that can quadruple or triple the growth very quickly. I think we should think of strategic ways to grow.
Right.
And so find that strategic way to grow and try to scale it.
Right, right. And of course, just wondering as well, when you talk about expanding, a large part of that will also be online. I'm sure if you go to Vietnam, it's online, offline. That's also a consideration,
Yes.
right? That you have
Yes.
to, so it can't just be one way. Jane, yes, how should companies prepare for this year?
How should they prepare? I think they need to relook, like we mentioned just now, it's not about surviving anymore. You need to thrive. You need to differentiate yourself. You need to understand your customer needs. So this time around, I think businesses need to come up with a strategy plan that is sustainable for their growth, not artificial growth. And
Right.
that way they are able to survive and thrive.
Right.
Surviving is not good enough. I think a lot of there's also a lot of new businesses that pop up during the pandemic. due to loss of jobs. So during this time, you need to take a step back. Should you be delivering the item yourself, or should you channel the energy to focus on your core portfolio, your business portfolio, and building what's important with your knowledge? After running your business, I'm sure you've obtained some knowledge, and how can you come up with a strategy approach to grow and scale?
Right. Right. We've got a question here from Brandon, and I guess it's for you, Jane. So, will Lalamove provide services identical to GrabFood and Shopee Food to join the competition as well as boost income for delivery partners?
I think we don't do that because right now our business model is actually very different. We don't just focus on F&B. We don't just focus on perishable
Right.
items. We move from small items all the way to your large items. So we have two-wheelers, the motorcycle, all the way until 5-ton trucks. And it's like supply chain is crucial part of every business, whether it's from your warehouse distribution, whether it's a mid-mile, whether it's last mile, and it's all part of our ecosystem, and hence we actually won't be looking specifically in just food.
Right. Will you help move my sofa? So thank you. If there are any, I'm just wondering if there are any more questions. We'll give it a second or so, 2 seconds or so. If not, any words of advice before we end this webinar for 2022? We'll start with you, Christy. I know you talk about your great plans, but I guess just in terms of delivery and concerns that there are other retailers who experience. Any words of advice?
I think for e-commerce to work, you need a really reliable delivery partner. It's very important. When I say reliable, is what I mean is when you deliver a huge volume of items, when you deliver very low volume, you can't feel any problems.
Right.
There's no problem. But once the volume hits a certain level consistently, like what we are experiencing, a lot of funny things start happening. For instance, parcels start going missing, damage, blah blah blah. Okay? So these are all part and parcel of the business. Regardless which delivery provider you use, these things will still happen. So when I say reliable, I mean that the delivery partner, like for instance, if my parcel goes missing, the delivery partner must be able to acknowledge and straight away, offer me a resolution. Like maybe they refund me, or there must be a very strong service level agreement between us and the delivery partner. Everyone always say they can do, but when the problem comes, they cannot settle. So this is my experience. So I'm very careful when it comes to delivery partners. There are only very few good ones, but you need to pick the good ones and work with them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. You're saying part and parcel, right? Yeah, pun intended. But also, you reliable, as you're saying that when the deliveries start going higher, and things will happen, right? And
Yes.
it is when that's when customers start complaining, and
Yes.
that gets on your social media, and that is when the issues. If you don't start looking at this earlier,
Yes.
then it's going to be a concern for your business if you don't take delivery into consideration, right? Vernon, words of wisdom from you?
So what we are noticing is that there's tremendous opportunities in the market right now. I think, as Jane rightly pointed out, many people are moving into the opening up new businesses.
Right.
And the thing is, if your business has survived the pandemic so far, and fingers crossed, God willing, knock on wood, this will not carry on for too much longer. Then actually you are way ahead of many of your competitors, many who did not survive the churn over the last 2 years has been quite incredible. So if you are in that situation, as I was saying, there's tremendous opportunities. In fact, many people are looking at expansion right now. I think Christy is hitting the nail right on the head as she's looking at expansion. Because there's a lot of vacuum that has appeared in the whole retail space, because many did not survive, unfortunately, the pandemic. So there is a lot of opportunity. Get in there, but please be innovative. Don't think that going online and going digital is the cure-all. It is just a necessity. It is not the silver bullet. You do need to really innovate and differentiate yourself out there.
Right. Okay. And planning, right? Jane?
Planning.
Yeah.
So I'm completely I completely agree with you both. I think
Right.
if you survive the pandemic, you need to
Mm,
think of expansion. You need to think of how you can reach more customers and get your brand out there and start building branding. If you are not focusing on that,
right.
branding comes with also customer loyalty, and
Right.
these are the people that will repeat purchase and help you to they will be with you in the long run, not just a short
Right.
run.
Right. And it's important, Christy, what you said about reliable, right? Someone that you can work with that's reliable, because the reputation is not on the delivery. The reputation is on your company if you don't
Yeah.
work with someone that's reliable. So on that note, thank you very much, Jane, Vernon, and Christy. And of course, thank you everyone for joining us today. And this webinar is powered by Lalamove Malaysia. And we would also appreciate it if you could fill in the feedback form. So the feedback form is posted in the comments section. So please help us to fill it up, so that we can improve better. Only 5 questions, so it shouldn't take too long. So on that note, thank you everyone, and have a safe and wonderful Lunar New Year in advance. Do more shopping. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.